Welcome to the first ever episode of Create, the podcast where we break down the content strategies behind today's biggest brands and creators. I am Yoko, one of your hosts, and next to me is Jedeon, who is the other host. And today we're diving into the rise of Temu, the e-commerce platform that's taken the world by storm.
Let's set the scene. It's mid 2025, and Temu has just celebrated their 2.5 years anniversary. It's hard to believe it's only been that long, right? Launched in September 2022 by Pinduoduo Holdings, Temu hit the ground running with a very simple promise: unbelievably low prices on pretty much everything.
Now, you might be thinking, that just sounds like another bargain marketplace, but Temu's success isn't just in its prices, it's actually in its content strategy. From day one, Temu has leveraged social media, influencer partnerships, and user-generated content like it's nobody's business.
Remember those Super Bowl ads back in 2023 and 2024? That was just the beginning. Temu's marketing team has been relentless, pouring billions into advertising and turning shopping into a game, literally. Their app is filled with mini games, rewards, and social features that keep users coming back for more.
And by late 2023, Temu had already hit 100 million active users in the US alone. Fast forward to today, and they're a household name in over 50 countries. Their success has forced giants like Amazon and Walmart to rethink their strategies, and especially when it comes to engaging younger shoppers.
As we deep dive deeper into Temu's playbook today, we will unpack how they've used content not just to sell products, but to create a cultural phenomenon. From their viral TikTok challenges to their innovative use of gamification, Temu has rewritten the rules of e-commerce marketing.
So buckle up. We're about to take a wild ride through the world of Temu, where every scroll could lead you to your next impulse buy, and content is king in the battle for consumer attention. Let's get started. Hey Jed, welcome to the first ever episode of Create. Maybe you can tell whoever's listening to this what Create is, how it came to be, and what we're trying to do with the show.
So, Create, we decided to create because we wanted to be able to analyze and talk about big brands out there, how they create their content, and kind of do a deep dive and make it easily understandable for others to know how to actually get to that level of delivery or content, and make it as simple as possible for people to understand.
Yeah, and maybe also a little bit of background on us. So I'm Yoka. He's Jedeon, like we said in the intro. But we run a content agency called Clipmasters, where we have a large team of creators, and we do a bunch of content for brands, creators, agencies. And we get a ton of questions about strategy as well, about what it actually takes to create content similar to larger brands, or whenever there's something going viral, our clients will ask us like, how has that been done? And it's something that we tend to talk about a lot anyway. When we see something, we go like,
share it.
Yeah, that was really cool. Or for me, especially like the technicality of things is like, oh, how did they do that? Like, is it in post? Did they do something during the shoot? How do you produce content at scale, etc.? It's something that's just like we find very interesting, and we find that it should be easily accessible to anyone. So this is why we decided to create.
Create.
Because we do still believe in creativity and the power of putting creative people in one room together, while at the same time, like, we also run a business, and a lot of our clients are business owners or managers within corporations. And there's also always the KPIs that you need to hit, and like how much reach did we have? How many assets did we put out there? How many pieces of content? So then it becomes like, how do we mix creativity with that pressure and workload that comes with actual business life and corporate life? So again, welcome to the first ever episode of Create. And for this episode, we chose to analyze Temu.
I think everyone knows what is Temu.
But how do you know?
Well,
how did you learn about it?
I learned, I actually never wanted to learn about it.
I taught you about it.
No. Like I basically, I've been seeing Temu's ad. Like I literally see them once per day.
But it's like, insane. It's crazy. Like even if when we did the research, and if you're watching this instead of just listening to this, you can see that we have a bunch of like cue cards because we do our research very, very well. We have people in the team on this. We use AI to do a bulk of it, and then we fact check. And even from my own experience in marketing, like it's insane the amount of money that is being pushed in ads for this platform. And we do have the numbers here somewhere. Let me just quickly, I think we're talking about billions, right?
Yeah.
Had it somewhere in our like facts.
Yeah, I think 2 billions. Yeah.
In our research, what we found was that they invested an estimated $2 billion globally on Facebook and Instagram ads alone in 2023.
That's crazy.
So imagine that. And what I've noticed with them compared to other larger marketplaces, like I don't actively remember ever seeing an Amazon ad unless I search for something on Google. And then maybe it will pop up at the top. But with Temu, it's like very aggressive cold advertising, just like broad targeting. And then also like, I think it's the first time ever that I've seen a company so aggressively advertise to people who have just made a purchase. So whenever, and you might not know this.
I might not know that.
But I do, because I do shop on Temu, especially for my kid. Whenever you've just bought something, like I've already made the purchase, I've gotten my email confirmation of like, hey, thanks for the order. I am getting like slapped left and right with ads on social about like, oh, you can get this at 60% off or this, like, and it's insane. Like I've never seen that in e-commerce. I've seen it when it's an abandoned cart, like someone didn't check out and then you aggressively advertise them, or like, oh, website visitors, and then we do that. But I've never seen it when someone just purchased and they're like, oh, but it makes sense because you know that person is willing to hand over their credit card.
No, that's true.
And it is a fact that it's easier to sell to customers that you already have than to gain new customers.
And it's cheaper to also.
And it's cheaper, so it does make sense. But the amount of ads that they're running, the massive growth that they've seen over 2.5 years is because of content.
Yeah, for sure.
And there again, they've approached it so differently than an Amazon. And like Walmart is a little bit less in our wheelhouse because we are from Europe.
I would say maybe now that you're talking about that, I am seeing, for example, Zalando maybe try to create like at least compared to other e-commerce platforms.
I think the difference there,
but it's not that aggressive.
And it's fashion. It's like you're really targeting a specific segment in the market. I think Temu is so broad. They legit sell everything.
Exactly.
Like it's absurd what you can find on there. And when I was prepping for the episode, I was like, I had a consulting client this is a while back, and they did so many different things, and I found that really complex to like
market
to create content for, because how do you talk about 5 or like this was 10 different things, but very like broad services, very like all under the same sort of group, and I was like, oh, this is a horror, this is a shit show to like create content for and advertise for. Like there's so many variables. And then now when I looked at Temu, it's like, oh, but it's the same for them. But they played it very, very
And they also had
smart.
Different budgets.
Also true.
Yeah.
Yes. Money does do something for you.
But have you ever bought anything on Temu? What specifically, like?
Of course,
a lot of stuff.
This is a weird question because you're asking me if I bought something on Temu, and I vividly remember having you on a video chat going, my Temu order just arrived, and I was like showing you all of this stuff.
I never did. That's why
really, because I thought I almost convinced you after that. Like,
But well, the thing is, I never did because, which while doing like the research a little bit and getting to understand how people felt about Temu, I actually realized that it's the same way I felt in the beginning, because I went on the app, I was seeing all these games, the roulette thing. Well, I felt like.
But that's the weird thing, because they so heavily rely on their gamification. I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I really
but
hate it.
I think a lot of people like it. It's just because I feel like, why? Maybe because I think too much as well.
Well, the thing is, I do have to admit, so what happens after you make a purchase is all of a sudden you get app notifications of like, oh, if you can unlock €200 coupon or something. Mm-hmm. I never did it. I don't like the gamification part of it necessarily. But then now, because we were doing the research, I was like, I want to get 200 euros. Like, but, why not? So I did it. But then basically what they say is like, you need to buy like 3 items and then you get the 200. And then also they don't specify that 200 needs to be like, you get 200 based on like how much you purchase. Like it's not just like, oh, you can now buy 200 for free. It's like you have a €200 coupon, but you need to purchase at least X amount, and you need to do it within the next 3 days. So I do understand how they are like raking in, like, I'm not going to say profits, but revenue like crazy with this. I personally don't like it as much. And I just checked now, because I do want to talk about like how they managed to create that amount of content. But they also use their gamification for their affiliates. So let's quickly, because we are aiming to get these episodes down to max 30 minutes so that you can listen to it on a commute. It's going to be a challenge for Jed and I.
Because I already have a lot of stuff.
we're not going to lie. We like talking a lot, and we're already around the 10-minute mark. So let's quickly like take a look at the actual sort of content strategy and sort of how much production goes into this, right? So for today's episode, we're mainly focusing on short form content, UGC/influencers, and then their game content, because I feel like there's a little bit of nuance there. So if we're looking at short form video strategy, they leverage the short form platforms. Majority. If we look at their and if we look at their follower count, they're heavily on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and then YouTube all of a sudden has a lot lower subscriber count. Because they use that platform primarily to like basically, like a lot of corporates, dump their professionally shot ads so that they can run it as YouTube pre-roll, basically. But so they're really well represented on their owned social media channels. And the difference between owned and paid is basically, if it's actually you own the channel, you create the content, and then any sort of paid can be like, oh, it's an influencer or someone else. So they do very well on their own channels already. But I think like their strength really lies in how well they're like doing user generated content and then influencer partnerships.
I was actually gonna say that it's thanks to that type of content that I actually believed Temu was legit. Because coming back to what I was saying earlier, so there was these gamification stuff, and then I was seeing stuff at €1 or $1. I was like, okay, well, it might never arrive. Then I started seeing some more collaborations with influencers and content creators, legit content creators, which actually I think brought back the legitness of the brand.
And I think they needed that.
Yeah, they needed that.
Especially since they were going after US market first, and then of course like they did Europe after. We are very skeptical when things are too cheap. Like we sort of live by a principle of like, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So if we see something and it's like this thing that in our store costs €20, but now online we can get it for €2, the majority of people will be like, it must be of lower quality. When in reality, the majority of the stuff that we buy in stores is also coming from China. Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's that thing. And it's not just like with physical products. People have
everything.
It with agency services as well. Like often, like the higher you price it, the more value people will attach to it, regardless of whether or not the quality is really that good. But I do think that they really needed that user-generated content and influencer content just to establish that trust, which is an important takeaway for anyone. Like if you really want to build trust with a consumer or with a potential client, you look at user-generated content, influencer content, case studies, testimony, anything that is a sort of a third party talking about your product or service.
Sure.
And then, of course, like there's still, I would say, like 3 different avenues in here. So they very much have their like paid influencer collaborations.
Yeah. Affiliates.
No, it's like the paid influencer collaborations is like there's probably an influencer manager that proactively contacts larger content creators. So they worked with Jason Derulo, Courtney Cox. Like those people are not doing it for the affiliate revenue.
No.
They get paid a fat fee upfront. They negotiate with the Temu team on like, what am I allowed to say? What's your brand's positioning, etc. They get paid upfront, probably no affiliate revenue on the back end. And so that is actively someone on their team that needs to arrange that. They need to go back and forth, right? That's one avenue. Then you have their influencer program, which is basically anyone can sign up for it and you create content. And if people download the app, that's an important one. They need to download the app. So download the app through your referral link. You get paid because they downloaded the app. If they already have the app, you get paid a commission on whatever they bought. So that's another one. And then you just have like these challenges. I think there's a bunch of people creating content for Temu who are not a Temu affiliate. It's just like, oh, these Temu videos are getting a lot of traction. Let me also do that Temu haul, for example. And it really is creating a ripple effect. And then fun fact, and this is something where, again, we're going to have to like, are we okay with this? Are we not okay with this? When I checked their affiliate program, signed up as an affiliate, you can make 10 to 30% commission on whatever someone orders through your link, which already is crazy for physical goods. Right?
30%?
10 to 30%, depending on the item, which is crazy because if you look at Amazon, we're looking at like 2, maybe 7. Like 7 is probably the highest that you're going to get. So that's like the first avenue they're exploring. And then you can get $10 for every new user that installs the app, even if they don't purchase.
Okay.
Right? So that's direct to consumer. But even crazier as an affiliate is that you can make the most money, like immediate and secure money, if you bring on other affiliates. So if you bring on another affiliate, you can earn $53. As long as they have over 1,000 followers on social.
Okay.
So that's where we're also starting to see like content creation where people advise other people to become Temu affiliate. And so you get sort of this snowball effect. Are we okay with that? I'm not like...
Well...
Sure. Like, because at that point, it's like you're like... you're basically telling people go and do this
and
thing
work for
and make a lot of money, even though you're making your money off of referring other affiliates and not so much selling the products. But still, like, it's a genius way to create so much content without having to actively be involved in the content creation. And then as a team, you can still say like, oh, we really liked, for example, this video that this affiliate did. Let's reach out to them and see if we can also use them on our owned channels.
Okay. Is it kind of like a network marketing thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah. Because I was like, why don't you? Then I understand why you're like, yeah.
Isn't like a sort of a scheme kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's legit. Like they pay their affiliates. Like, and we can like when someone for us refers another client, you also get a percentage. So like a ton of businesses do this. It's just if you do it at this scale, and you start seeing that people are like, hey, you should become a Temu affiliate. This is where you can sign up. And then they push their link and they get paid because they referred you as an affiliate.
I think their end goal, I don't think it's making, like, I think they want to be able to have all these users download and then later on they are sure that they can convert them and keep retaining them.
Because if you have an app, now I can send you push notifications.
So they're investing a lot, and I think while doing my research, they're not making any profit, but they make sure that
they're doing crazy revenues, I think, and I think they go for the long-term game, for sure. Mm-hmm. I think what I learned sort of like from looking at this is like if you have because of course we're talking about a giant, like they're pushing 2 billion just in ads. I can only imagine how much they're pushing in like other types of content building team. Like we don't have that money. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this, I'm guessing you don't have 2 billion lying around either, or more. But what can we learn from it, right? And that is, for example, saying, okay, let's set up an affiliate structure and promote, like push other people to create content, and then they can monetize selling stuff for me. Yeah. That's something that a lot of people can do. It's not that expensive, like to set up an affiliate program. The cheaper ones come in at like what, $100, $200 a year. And then of course you have like the more advanced you go, like the more expensive it gets. I think another interesting part to look at is their game content. Mm-hmm. Because I think out of everything that they do, that's probably the one where they invest their resources in-house or with an agency partner to develop that. Because the amount of ads that they push, it's dynamic ads, but you still have to like give those platforms all of the different creatives, all of the different product images, headlines. If there's a button, like what you basically do is you give that tool all of the different elements, and then the tool sort of like puts together like a wild variety of ads, and based on the data points that they have, they will serve it to the right people. For example, if I shop mostly for kids stuff, then it will put together a bunch of other stuff for kids for me. They're not all of a sudden going to show me like a lawn mower, for example. But that's all like captured in-app data sent to the ad optimizer. And then like but still like all of those elements need to be in, like there's an input, right? So that, and then also just like all of the spinning wheels, all of the little things, the banners, like that's actual like graphic design, animation design that needs to be done. That's not something that you can ask users to do. So I would say their largest time investment and resource investment in content, aside from like probably the large sums of cash that they're giving out to like larger creators, I would say is in their content.
Yeah, it's in the content for sure.
Yeah.
Because even the influence marketing campaigns, yes, of course. Well, we've helped at Clipmasters. We've helped a bunch of video agencies who would do UGC content, and I basically looking at the type of content that has been created for Temu. I don't feel like sometimes they would leave the creators to edit it, but usually they will still like have that brand guideline. So I think they probably edit some part of it internally, and other stuff they keep it as natural as possible.
Yeah, I think if they're actually working with larger creators that they pay up front, they would want the access to the creatives and the assets. Sort of like you said, we've helped UGC agencies in the past, and mostly what they do is like you get the creator to edit one version, and then you ask them like, hey, record alternative hooks, send me more B-roll, and then that gets passed off to like either an internal team, or in our case, we would do that for our UGC agencies. And then you basically, from that, start creating like 10, 20 variations so that can be ran as ads as well. And then the creator will only post that one video organically on their channel. Or sometimes it's like, again, like from my background running influencer campaigns, it's like it sort of depends on the deal. Like sometimes it's like, oh, they get 10K, or like Jason Derulo and Courtney Cox will get more, but they'll get a fixed fee, and then you agree on the deliverables. Is that one feed post? Is that a story? Is that multiple times throughout the year? It really depends on the deal. But yeah, I think only for the creators that they actually pay would they get access to the assets. Everything else, they don't, like, even in the affiliate program, like, there's so many
and
affiliates.
it's so hard to be able to
control it.
That.
And it also shows, because when you go on TikTok and you type Temu, you also have all of like people, Temu failed, Temu did, but it makes it like a live thing, and it's almost like a fun thing that people are like, oh, I thought I ordered a chair, turns out it's like tiny, like, and it sort of like a fun element to it, I guess.
And it's crazy the way they even they created a debate. I think it was done on purpose on the pronunciation of the name. So at first it was Temu, and even if you watch the first,
huh? Are we saying it
no,
wrong?
now we're saying it right, Temu. Because if you watch the first ad campaign they did for the Super Bowl, you can hear specifically it said Temu, Temu, Temu in the song. Well, and at the end, the second one was Temu, and they launched a whole debate just to create. People were saying no, it's Temu. Other people were saying it's Temu.
It would make sense if you launched it in the US that it would be Temu, because that's how they would pronounce it.
But now they pronounce it Temu as well in the US.
Would have been hilarious if we the entire episode Temu, and then like the first comments we get is like it's Temu.
No, it was Temu. We're up to date.
So at least like we can start a poll about whether it's Temu or Temu. Let us know what you think. But so no, they went about it very smart. Not just from a like how can we create virality standpoint, but just from a production standpoint, because the amount of content that we're seeing for them, there's no way, like, I don't want to say that, probably someone else is a billionaire and can like produce that amount of content in-house. They would have the budget for it, but that would be, how would you even do that? Whereas now it's like, you basically have probably an in-house team or an agency doing all of the static graphics and then making them into motion design, all of the elements for the ads. And then you have an influencer marketing team
who goes to work with other influencer
probably
marketing.
Also agencies in the middle.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these larger creators, they're with an agency or they have a manager or an agent. But that's the extent of it. Anything else that is like user created it's out of their hands. And
also one thing is the fact that it's so localized. Like all the type of content is so localized. Like for example, they have for every specific country, even Nigeria.
Really?
Yeah, I saw there was Temu Nigeria.
I saw that, like, and then a lot of like larger like when I was at Samsung for their influencer campaigns, we had Samsung, the general page, and every like not even country, if I would say country, they would have their separate pages. Which in Belgium was a shit show, because in Belgium you have like the French speaking part and the Dutch speaking part. It's like we're such a tiny country, but like we had two pages for Belgium, and then we had a page for the Netherlands, and then Luxembourg was a separate one as well. So that, even though that was one team, there was 4 pages.
No, it's definitely localized per regions and even per country. So as I was saying, there is also Temu Nigeria, and they are actually localizing this type of content for Nigerians as well.
But do you feel, because I checked on their TikTok accounts, and for their owned content, it's a little bit the same on their YouTube channel. If you go and check, like the majority of the videos on their YouTube channel are ads, which is like the Super Bowl ads that they ran, any sort of pre-roll ads that you could run. They're there, they're available, but they probably put budget behind it to then run as ads. And then you have a couple of videos, which is like, desk setup must-haves, like all of these things, and they do really well even on their own channels. But I can imagine if you have so many people creating content for you that you're like, why bother doing these types of videos? There's plenty of other people doing them, and we don't have to invest in the production of it. I would get that.
I would do that, but well, you always have
I think you have to sort of like, what's the payoff of this? You have a gazillion other creators creating these videos.
What are you doing? Why are you investing? I don't have
to worry about it. I'll give them a 10% cut if someone buys something. and I'm
So your question
hands
is
off.
like, why are they even creating
No,
that?
I was wondering if you looked at their TikTok,
Uh-huh.
because I think most of the videos on their TikTok are created by creators, probably affiliates or just people, random people on the internet, and someone in the Temu team goes, "We really like your video. Can we post it on ours?"
Yeah, they could go. They could do that as well. I'm just thinking about one campaign we did one back then. Had Shake Influence. Well, no, I think they have someone of their team that goes to do that. And what they also do is basically they would check with the creator whatever he posted, and if it really worked well, they would then say, okay, we're gonna put some ad budget there, add the ID of the post in the ad. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm just asking, do you think for their TikTok that they like there's someone in house in a social
who
media team
goes
who's like, let
around.
me film these videos about our products? Or do you think that they scour socials, go like, oh, this video that someone did about a product of ours got 2 million views. Let's contact them
I think they
and
do both.
ask if we can use it.
I think they do both. I think they do both because, and then they have the money to have those resources. I think they do both.
Well, yeah, for me, it's like when I looked at it, I was like, I don't see like an original Temu style or anything branded or anything on there. So I was like, this just looks like a bunch of like other creators doing the videos. And they asked if they could use it.
They have some in-house content, and of course, like the Super Bowl ads, they have some. They still have some in-house content.
I don't think the Super Bowl ads are in-house.
No, well, I mean in-house, like it comes from the decision comes from like we want to create these, then we find
like Super Bowl ads. What they did is they worked with a video agency. These are extensive shoots, especially that first one in 2023 is like an extensive shoot. Like it ends with that shot of like someone dancing near a fountain. There's so many people around, and then the year after it was animation, probably leveraged with AI as well. So a different type of production, but both not in-house, in my opinion.
Do you think they have a content team in-house, like a creative team in-house?
I think if you're a billionaire and you have that amount of money, you would spend it on finding a really good creative partner instead of trying to replicate something in-house, knowing that you'll never be as good as an agency that has 30 years of experience.
Doing that. No, makes sense.
I think if you're at that level, you don't bother with like, oh, let's now muck around for 2 years and try and build it in-house. You would just go with like people who already have the expertise.
Because it comes with its own sets of challenges as well. No, sure.
Because we see this all the time with people who come to us. Either in the beginning they come and then they're like, oh, I think I can build it in-house, and then they leave and they come back. Or it's people who've tried doing it. And it's the same for us as business owners. Is we also had that mindset in the beginning. If you're bootstrapping something, you're looking at the money coming in and out, and you're like, oh, appointment setting, we could probably figure that out in-house. And we could. Do we have the time and resources to do that? No. And then it ends up either being more expensive, or it ends up being such a long learning curve that you might as well have paid an external partner to do it and then have it done well without the waste of time around it. So I don't think they probably have. Maybe they bought.
Maybe
they bought an agency. I know from when I was at Samsung, they had an agency within Samsung. So they worked with external partners, and then there was a creative studio that was in the Samsung building, but it's a different legal entity. And then anything that was like actually like localizing the main ads. So we're not talking about like social media posts or influencer content. We're talking about, oh, this is a major campaign for a new launch, and it's coming from Korea because that's where Samsung is located.
You need to adapt it.
It needs to be localized. You'd go to the studio downstairs. But it was still like it was operating under a different name. It was in the Samsung building, but it was like a separate legal entity. So that I would say is possible. But with the speed that they went at, it's for me unlikely. Because to build a good creative team, if that is not like your area of expertise, takes months or years. And they went from like launch in 2022 to...
And you need to, of course, when you need to distribute, if you go in the US, okay, this partner would help me distribute because they have the contacts. You're not going to start that from scratch.
Plus, also, if you're launching in that many locations, each location comes with its own restrictions. What are we allowed to advertise on? What language can... I think
they have a department, but they definitely...
They have an in-house marketing department, for sure, with experts. But then the operations of it, I think they would outsource per country even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, because I feel like they really went on it with I would say with a startup mentality, because they really didn't, because for what they basically built in 2 years in terms of users or monthly users is basically what Amazon did in 10 years.
I think it's also just a different approach, because Temu really just went, maybe like you said, with a startup approach, in the sense of that a lot of startups, they will literally just pump money into acquiring users and not care about whether or not they're profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Amazon was maybe a little bit different, because they started off a lot more conservative with like, we sell books, right? And then they were like, oh, maybe we can sell other stuff. So it's a different approach. It's a different era. Like Amazon was like still testing, do people buy stuff online? Temu is like, we know people buy stuff online. How can we get them to buy as much as possible?
No, and I think they analyzed what Wish, what Alibaba was doing, and basically they summed that up and said, okay, now we're going to do, thanks to all that information, they went faster because they knew what was working. As someone, while doing the research, as someone who compared Temu and Wish to MySpace and Facebook, which was basically all the others just set the path for Temu to come and say, I'm taking the best.
That's how it happens all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once do we call it a scene? Sort of the scene has been set, and like those first movers have basically laid the groundwork. That's when we see rapid innovation.
And how do you think, because I think we also need to wrap up at some point. How do you think a company or a brand that doesn't have Temu's budget can actually leverage the same?
Well, I think the big takeaway here is to be smart with your resources, and that's your time and your budget, right? So what we touched upon is that like Temu is basically getting a shit ton of content done without paying for it. They pay on it a little bit on the back end probably, but the majority of their content is actually not created by them. It's created by users. And they do that just because they want to do that. The majority of them. I don't think all of the people creating Temu content are affiliates or stuff like that. So when you're trying to do that for your own brand, when you don't have 2 billion lying around to push in the first year, I would say look at how you can set up an affiliate program and how you can motivate people to create content for you. Maybe if you're, let's say you have a beauty brand, you built your own beauty brand, I would say like send samples out to micro influencers. I would say micro influencers are more likely to create content just because they got product, and then include a little card saying, if you like it, you can sign up as an affiliate and make X amount of commission on sales, right? So we're not asking necessarily people to create content for free. I'm not a fan of that. There's I get it all the time on Instagram. Oh, we are a jewelry brand. We want to send you 2 things. If you can create a post, I don't necessarily like that. I feel like you compensate people for the content that they create, but it doesn't have to be upfront. You can incentivize people and say, we have an affiliate program. If you truly like our products, sign up. And this is sort of the structure of like compensation that you get for sales that you refer. So I would say that, because it doesn't cost you anything upfront unless maybe like the product that you sent out. And then be wise with, okay, what content do I need to produce myself? What do I need to have creative control over, which is probably your ads, maybe content for your website or your YouTube channel, stuff like that. Your owned content is what you would have control over. And then I would advise, as soon as possible to find a really good creative partner. Unless you truly enjoy the creative process, which is what I like to do, right? Like I like changing my living room into a set and like having all of this stuff and spending hours doing that.
Yeah.
But if you're running
you need to focus
your own
on the
company,
business,
or if you're a marketing manager, you're probably not the person.
You need to think strategy, not
you have to also always wonder, like, is this worth my time investment? And maybe how much am I losing out on by now spending my time trying to figure all of this out when I could maybe pay a little bit extra to a creative partner who's already figured all of that out. So I would say that, like, make a calculated decision of, okay, how much content do we need? How much time and budget do we have? How can we get other people to create content for us? And what content are we going to do internally? And then maybe even there's, and that's something that we see with our clients all the time, is like, again, it's like that little balancing act of like, what types of content can give you the most content for the time spent and the budget. Right? Sometimes we have people who come to us and they have like these amazing creative ideas, and our team can execute on anything. That's not the issue. But if you're like, my budget is tight, I want to post 2 reels a day, but hey, by the way, I want them all to be cinematic. I want different font styles, which means it's not just standard captions, but it's like After Effects. Then you also might have to like change sort of your approach to what type of content you want to post now, or what your budget allows.
Definitely.
Because the production side of things, we or any other creative partner can help you do that. It's more like, is it realistic to say that you can create this type of content with that budget in that amount of time? And I think in that regard, Temu has done an amazing job of going like, hey, we need a buckload of content. How do we go about it without having to produce everything in-house?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think that was
great takeaway. Yeah.
The first episode of Create. Thank you very much for listening. Drop your questions or your sort of comments on how we can improve down below in the comments. And then make sure to subscribe on all major streaming platforms, wherever you're listening or watching this from. And then we will talk to you in the next one.
Peace out.